alive! But we're also on tape. We are in the bowels of Lee's music. That's Chris Folds. I'm Marty Hastings. This is Kamloops Last Week. Mark my words, all-time show today.
Number 21?
Number 21. Dianna Hartnell, we're going to have her on today. Peter Puck, you know Peter Puck pretty well?
Yeah, Peter Puck is a legendary learn to skate and play hockey program that she's run for almost 4 decades, and my son took part in it 13 years ago, as did many, many, many people in Kamloops.
And she's going to be our first ever in-studio guest. Michael Potestio joining us over Zoom.
Yeah, he's going to be talking about his recent coverage of the Prime Minister's visit to Kamloops and the pummeling he took and the words he spoke.
Caitlin Sharp, as well, a concerned parent about an SD 73 ruling about no inter-school volleyball play. She's going to join us with her take as well. And also, you want to stick around for the end of the show. The Last Week clique is lit today. Dave, the Slender Hawk Eagles, joins us, and
that's right.
What a show he puts on. None of this possible without our sponsor, our beloved title sponsor, New Leaf Produce Market. Well, old Hermels and I, we've been through a lot together, haven't we, buddy? And now we go through the changing of the seasons. What's that? He likes my jacket. $40. Sean John, Value Village. Speaking of top quality, which we were, New Leaf Produce Market juice. It's the best in the business. And October 30th, where are you going to be? You're going to be in Merritt. They bring the commercial juicer out. They show you how it's made right in front of your eyes. Buy the juice. Check out the apples. It's apple season. Pumpkins, Halloween. And maybe you get to meet the man himself, Hermels.
Chris, you don't age, eh?
No, I don't know about that.
No, he doesn't. Like, how many years ago did your kid take that?
14.
I saw my first gray hair the other day. It kind of freaked me out.
Oh, I bet. No, you. I'm not hitting on you or anything.
No, I don't.
Are we recording right now? The first question is just, how are you doing? It's 34 years, 1987, you started Peter Puck, and you just sold it. So how are you doing?
I'm good. I've had my emotional days. See, here I go. What? Yeah, I'm good. I'm trying to keep busy. Oh boy.
It's okay. What's the hardest part about it?
The parents and the kids, seeing the kids, how excited they are to go on the ice, dragging in their hockey bags and hockey sticks.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. If you can't skate, you can't play the game.
I know. See.
Yeah. I mean, Chris is a good example. His kids went through Peter Puck, and you've kind of impacted multiple generations in the city. So what do you think about the legacy you leave?
Well, I know I did it for a long time until I wasn't doing it here, and people are running into people going like, "Oh my God, your legacy! You're not doing it anymore." And I didn't. You know what? I don't think I realized it. I know people. After every year, they're like, "Dan, it was amazing. He loves hockey now. Thanks." And the emails I'd get, but it's big, and I didn't know that. So I thank the parents.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like they don't know what you miss until it's gone type of thing, because there were times when there'd be lulls with it and then ice time and everything like that. When my son was in it back in 2007, 2008, it was at the Icebox Arena. He couldn't wait to get there, but there's one incident, and you have a lot of good instructors on the ice, but he was on the ice, and he was 6, so he used to watch hockey, and he'd see them fight. So one time he was on the ice, and I saw him do this, and I'm like, no, and he's skating up to this kid, and he brought his stick down on the kid's helmet. and I'm like banging on the window, and he's looking like, what? And the kid falls down, the kid's okay.
Yeah.
And the instructor came up and said very gently, I listened to them, and he's like, but I saw them do it at the Maple Leafs game. He goes, no, you can't do that. So beyond the skating and playing, they teach them that, life lessons, he's your friend.
It's fun.
And you can't do this and have fun and keep the sticks to the minimum, Yeah,
I always, when I talk to them as a group before every class, I would say, we're here for fun. Well, can't we fight? No. Can I push them down? No.
Yeah, that's exactly it, because they think what they see on TV sometimes is morphed into the real life, but it's not.
I know.
How often are you approached by people with stories like that?
Oh, it's been really emotional going to the mall. I don't go anymore. I just run into people, and they're like, I had a lady the other day say, my son's 30 and he still talks his best hockey was Peter Puck. And I went, you got to be, What?
You had open heart surgery in January.
January, yeah.
Is that kind of what the final straw was for you?
You know what? I've slowed down so much since then. I wished, how can you wish you never had open heart surgery? I needed it. But I wish I would have never got it because this is where it's ended me. Mm-hmm. Doing this instead of getting ready for a class today, right?
Well, you actually are going to go today for the first time as a non-owner. What do you think it's going to be like?
Yeah, this is really tough today, isn't it, with you guys? It's going to be hard, but I'm going to surprise ELYSHA and take her some flowers. But I know there's a lot of kids that have come back, so I'm looking forward to seeing them.
Let's talk about ELYSHA quickly. Marty did a good story with the passing of the torch, but for those who haven't read it or want to know more about it, how did it come about that you finally decided, I got to sell this baby, but you wanted to make sure it's to the right person? How did that come about?
And I was sitting on my back deck, and I said, I think I'm ready. And she's like, oh. And I said, you don't want to buy it? She's like, no, I can't right now. We just bought a house. And I went, okay. And it wasn't very long. Well, I think actually it was the next day. And I said to a girlfriend, I said, I can't believe it. She turned me down, And then the next day she called me. She said, I don't know why I did that. She said, of course I want to buy it. But ELYSHA's was last year, was that when I was out of Memorial Arena? Anyway, this is quite funny. And I'm at the bench and the kids are skating and she comes up beside me and I went, what are you doing here? And she's like, if I give you 10 grand right now, will that help? Will you? And I went, no, I'm not ready to sell. Yeah. So anyway, I know she had the drive to do it.
Yeah, the timing had to be right, but you also wanted somebody that had the heart and that was going to carry it on in your legacy in the way you did it.
Yeah, she was so good. She brought all that up to me before we even signed or anything. She's just like, I know how you run it. I promise you, it'll be run the same. My heart will be into it. And she's got children, so she knows how to deal with kids. And she's a hockey player. She's friendly. Sometimes it's like pulling her away from the bench, saying, "Come on, you got to work on the ice now," because she likes to socialize, right? So the parents will love her.
The transfer of ownership, I loved Alicia's story. She went to your house and had a few beverages, and she said you kind of went through the whirlwind of emotions that night.
I did. Yeah, I did. So.
What was going on that night?
Oh, it was. I shook her hand and just said, it's done. And she's like, you'll be fine, Di. And it was like, I can't believe I'm not doing it, right? So. Mm-hmm. Do you have any Kleenex? Anyway, sorry.
It's okay.
Well, no, it's like it's a legacy you're leaving on.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you. Do I have a life? Yeah, I have a life. But my life was Peter Puck. Yeah. Because I'm on my own, which is a bonus. And I had all the time in the world for it. I dedicated my life to Peter Puck, and all of a sudden, what am I going to do? Yeah, I remember phoning my son saying, class today and I'm not going to be there, and he's like, Mother, you'll be fine.
Well, you said you do have a really good, we can get some Kleenex in now.
Thanks, sorry about that.
It's okay.
You guys knew this was going to happen, didn't you?
We should have brought Kleenex, not that McDonald's napkins.
No, that's okay.
Well, it's recyclable, so
I know.
That's good. We're doing a part about saving the world through Diana's tears here. So that's
I had all the time in the world for Peter Puck, so I put everything into it that I thought would make it a good program, right? I'm not patting myself on the back, it's just that I had the time for it, and I loved it. See those little kids? Man.
What do you want to say to the people that you've kind of impacted over the years?
You know what? I was gonna now this is a bad question. I was gonna put a thing in the paper thanking the parents for supporting me, Yeah. For all their support. All right. They were great, or Dad say, if you need any help, just give me a call, I'll come out there. I wished I had the time now to put on, like, Chris, when your son was there, we did hockey tournaments and hockey camps, and hockey tournaments were a blast.
The summer things were great because, kids had a lot of fun there.
Yeah, maybe I could do that.
Maybe do it on the side.
I don't know. You can contract. You told me the other day you were going to stay away.
But... maybe?
Yeah.
Hey?
Yeah, sure. Just to start a new thing called Paul Puck. You can do that.
Paul Puck.
Yeah.
You heard it here first. All right. Any final words, Diana?
No, just like I said, thanks to everybody that supported me, and You know, their kids are amazing. I see them in the malls or in the store waving at me, and I'm like, oh, it's got to be a little Peter Puck boy in the vehicle next to me. And yeah, thanks to everybody, you know. Yeah, thank you. You look different than your picture in the paper.
Oh, do I look older?
Yeah.
No, no.
That's nothing. You should see his online profile.
Oh, yeah?
Chris, do you remember this photo at all?
Yeah, wasn't that amazing final that you covered OLPH with Dave Eagles, and you wrote a big feature that turned out to be. You went there to cover the final and didn't realize how stunningly exciting it would be.
Yeah, it was OLPH. They got the better of the Beatty Bearcats that day.
That's right.
Brock Middle School,
Yeah.
Dave Eagles and I went. I remember because he basically looked like an army man packed with his camera gear like he does sometimes. Anyway, that couldn't happen today, basically. Elementary school volleyball teams under current SD 73 regulations are not allowed to do inter-school play, so they're stuck doing intra.
Yeah, they can't visit other schools, they can play amongst themselves.
Right, this was a decision basically made by the Elementary School Sports Council with advice from Interior Health, and there are some parents who are concerned about this. And one of them is Caitlin Sharp. She emailed us, and we have her on today to talk about this decision, which is actually under review. And maybe something has even changed in the last 24 hours that I don't know about that Caitlin does. So why don't we bring Caitlin in right now to have a conversation? Hi, Caitlin.
Hi there.
Hi.
Can we just start with some background on you? Because you are training or studying to be a teacher and you have kids. So can you give us a general rundown of who you are and what you're up to?
Yeah, so I am a TRU student. Currently I'm finishing my prerequisites, so in February I will apply for September 2022 education program up at TRU. As well, I do have 2 children in our local school district. They're both in elementary school.
Why did you reach out to us?
A bit of more of my background is my grandmother was Kenna Cartwright, and she was a lifelong sports enthusiast and advocate. So for me personally, I grew up in a family where sports was kind of what brought us together as a family. And so for me and my children, sports is huge. And when my daughter came home from school early on in September, she was pretty bummed out that cross country was not going to be run again this year due to the pandemic, health and safety related, obviously. And then within the last few weeks, same outlook for school volleyball. That was told to them that it would be canceled for versing other schools competitively. And it would just be run as a fun intramural type activity at lunch hour if students were still interested in playing.
What are your main qualms with how it's been handled?
I feel as though more discussion could be put in and tabled as the regulations in BC right now, as per Bonnie Henry, are changing, and outside of school, children can go and play Kamloops minor hockey. They can go to a dance studio and dance. Whereas, for these school-related activities, I feel like we could also be putting together a COVID-safe plan for these children to be offered the opportunity to play.
So Superintendent Nixon told me that as of this past Sunday, she and more specifically the principals and the athletic directors at these schools hadn't heard much from parents or students that they were that there was anything wrong, that they weren't okay with just doing the intramurals. They were fine with the scrimmaging and practicing within the schools, and they hadn't really heard much from parents. Is that your take on it, or do you think that there had been kind of some backlash from parents already happening.
I won't name names, but I do know there was discussions put out there even prior to school starting in September in terms of what type of plans are going to be implemented this year as the province was opening up and the younger age group, 12 and up, being vaccinated, or at least being offered the vaccines. Those include the grade 7s of elementary school. And so for us personally as a family, my daughter is double vaccinated. And, you know, she's looking forward to that type of play being offered to her, and knowing that to the best of her ability, she is being safe and doing what is necessary to keep herself healthy during this pandemic. And I know there's so many others. And so other parents have reached out, other educators that are parents as well have reached out for plans to be put in place for a safe place. So I do know there was mention of this prior to starting school in the fall.
In your email to me, you said there might be a feeling among parents that the school district took the easy way out. What did you mean by that?
So based on emails going back and forth between school district and parents, I do understand the difficult position they've been in during this pandemic, and I think certain aspects have been handled with great care. However, with this, I do feel like it is easier to sit down and collectively say, for the health and safety of children right now, and adults and others that are part of these sports groups, we'll just keep them safe by, you know, not having that type of season this year. Whereas it's a little bit more time consuming and difficult to sit down and discuss COVID safe options and plans of play.
When we asked the principals yesterday, how many parents have you heard from regarding the decision about intramurals versus interschool play? It was a very small minority of our school principals who said they had heard from parents. So there was no hesitation when a few parents came forward for us to say, let's have you reach back out, which is the indicator that it's not an easy way out, but rather we're living in a global pandemic, as you know, and I think that navigating it is complex. So I don't believe that they're taking any easy way out. I think that they've really persisted through a very difficult time. And at a time when case numbers are rising and there's challenges in the environment with the pandemic, we've actually seen principals and teachers and support staff really lean in and try to do field trips, extracurricular sports in whatever way they could to be helpful to kids.
Are you happy with the fact that it does seem like they're taking your concerns into account?
Yes, even the fact that they were willing to sit down and reconsider, that's huge. I know that will make a lot of young hearts happy, just even giving the opportunity to rediscuss.
One thing, again, with the vaccines that Rhonda Nixon brought up with me is they're not actually allowed to ask for kids' vaccine status, like at the school district level. So she told me they're not, and then she said that the school district takes its lead from Interior Health, and at the time of the decision, case counts were rising in Kamloops, kids were settling into school, and they're not allowed to ask for vaccine cards, and that's where the decision came from. I mean, does that seem fair to you?
I know that's a touchy subject, disclosing that type of information. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't know where I would stand on them. I mean, my daughter is very proud to say that she has both her vaccinations, and to put it out there, if that's what's necessary, to just say, yes, I have both my vaccines, here's my proof, I think it's individually different for everyone. So that's more difficult, and that's what I'm understanding from their background of what they're working through to be able to create these plans for kids to be playing right now.
And that would only affect anyway the grade 7s, because anyone under grade 7, 4, 5, 6, they can get the vaccines anyway. Now,
Exactly.
for the uninitiated, or for the people whose kids are no longer in elementary school like me, or who don't have kids there yet, what would you say to someone who says, well, what's the big deal? Well, they have intramural, so they can go play volleyball. They can run around the school in a quasi sort of local cross-country thing. What makes interschool so much better than intramural?
It allows for a higher level of play. It will be a whole nother level for them to even try out for a team next year.
Right.
And so to keeping these students engaged and excited about sport, so that when they go on to high school, they have something to continue on. It's such a sensitive transition time in their life. And I think it's super important to encourage this right now for them.
Lastly, you made a good point, I think, that maybe not your kids, but some children may just quit sports entirely due to this.
Yes.
Is that through evidence you've seen through other families, or where did that come from?
Yes, and I do see that very closely within our community. There's students who have been playing for the love of the sport for the last few years, and knowing that it wasn't going to be offered this year. One student just stopped going entirely to the tryouts or the pre-gatherings that they were sort of initially gathering the students together for. And so he's no longer interested. And this is also a grade 7 student. So if he doesn't have this season this year, I'm almost certain he won't be interested in the slightest next year come high school.
Okay, you asked an open-ended question in an email. You said, will the risks of transmitting COVID across a vaccine-offered age group outweigh the risks of youth being denied the option to play? What's your answer to that question?
Not having a background in science or health, I can't specifically say anything aside from I do know what the coronavirus does personally. And so being affected, myself having COVID last year, my family, my children went through all those stages of seeing me have the illness, and I'm still working on the brain fog, and there's other things that came with COVID that are very real, and that's what the healthcare system is also being overwhelmed with. So I have a lot of respect and concerns in relation to the safety and the health of others. However, having some students in our school district of the vaccinated age groups, specifically speaking grade 8s to grade 12s, they have obviously a plan in place, a COVID safe plan for them to be playing other schools competitively. And I'm just looking towards that being redirected to the grade 7s who are also part of that vaccination category. If we could just all work together towards a plan to get these kids the opportunity to play again, that would be wonderful.
Thanks for joining us.
No worries. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. Chris, your thoughts on Caitlin's interview?
Well, it sounds like she's a long hauler, which is terrible, because the long hauler are the COVID patients who, like, yeah, they're no longer infectious, but they're dealing with symptoms for months, weeks, maybe years. So I think it's unique that she comes from a perspective of she's not one of these weird, anti-vaxxers. She's had it. She still has it. She understands the seriousness of it. But I think she made a really good point. And her question was weighing the risk of if the kids in grade 7 visit another school and play, what's the risk of them getting COVID versus the risk of them never playing again? And it's huge, actually. If you're in grade 6 and 7, you're a big sports fan, and you don't get a chance to do the inter-school sports, wear the uniform, be part of a team, and you stop playing sports in grade 8, 9, 10, that can alter your life dramatically for the worse. It really can. You'll pick up some bad habits. You'll become sedentary. Look at the West Side School, West Side Secondary. It doesn't have a senior football team because there was not enough interest. And the coach there said to you, he really thinks it's the pandemic related because the kids started doing other stuff, and they just don't want to put in the effort anymore because they found other stuff is easier and more fun to do. I think she makes a really good point.
It's nice to have somebody who's level-headed and has legitimate concerns. And she's kind of thinking out loud about how she actually still feels about it too.
Well, yeah, you could tell. Like she says, she has the brain fog and she has all this other stuff. So, and the fact that she's willing to say she more than anyone, more than us, knows the seriousness of COVID. It sounds like she got it bad, so she understands that. But the other point is the kids' mental health, the kids' well-being, the kids' future.
Mm-hmm. We'll leave it there, but we'll keep with the volleyball theme for a second. Justin Trudeau got spiked. He got pancaked. He got six-packed for his trip to Tofino. He got playing beach volleyball. I don't know.
He got wrapped in that net and he got tossed overboard. That's right.
Let's deal with that in Above the Folds. Michael, I told you not to come on until I texted you. Unbelievable. So that's who came on and ruined the interview? I specifically texted him to tell him not to do that.
But we'll do it live.
We'll do it live, Michael. Chris, just some background on why Justin Trudeau was in Kamloops.
All right, so Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister, sitting here with Kamloops Chief Roseanne Casimir, was in Kamloops on Monday, October 18th, a couple days ago, and he was here because he twice declined or didn't respond to an invitation twice from the Kamloops to come here on September 30th, the inaugural National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. It's a new statutory holiday created by his Liberal government on June 3rd, just days after Kamloops announced the discovery of probable unmarked graves. So they invited him to come and mark the occasion because what was discovered here led to this holiday directly. But the Prime Minister didn't respond. He was even offered to appear by Zoom or tape a message. Instead, he went to Tofino with his family on vacation, which was a PR boondoggle that nobody, even the best PR guys, can't understand why you would do that on that day.
What do you think about that? Was it a personal life thing that was going on? I honestly can't figure it out.
I just think it's probably the stupidest political thing I've ever heard. I mean, he's go on vacation with your family. Go the next day, like we said before. Visit here, do your thing here, show your respect to Kamloops for the holiday, for all the angst that led to this holiday, and then go meet your family the next day in Tofino. Everything would have been great.
It just makes me think there has to be something we don't know about that happened.
Weird. I think it was just it was a mind-boggling decision. My dog wouldn't have made that decision if he was the press secretary for the Prime Minister. You listen to all the big PR guys and all the media people, no one can understand it. Anyway, it was done. So he comes here on Monday, and he got a dressing down from Chief Casimir as he sat next to her, and it was quite remarkable. And then he did a Q&A with the media, and then he met privately with Kamloops again, another Q&A in the afternoon. And our reporter Michael Potestio was there for it all, and he can weigh in on more about what the vibe was like, what the feeling was like, and what was said there.
All right, Michael Potestio, you interrupted us once today, but we'll bring you in now, the time you're supposed to be here. Michael?
Oh, there he
Hi, Michael.
Sorry about that.
It's all good. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Sorry, Marty. I just saw 9:40 at the bottom of my text, and I just jumped the gun.
Okay, Michael, your thoughts on Justin Trudeau's visit. How did it go?
He was here a bunch of times in 2019, but that was for the federal election campaign. And, those times that he was here was all, kind of rah, 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 let's get ready for the election. This was much more somber when he came in. He rolled up in a black SUV, and there was just this mob of cameramen that came up to the front to get him there, and he was just kind of walking up slowly and kind of stone-faced with Chief Casimir there, and it was just a little bit more like kind of awkward that way. And yeah, he did take a little bit of a dressing down there from some people who spoke, but I felt like, he did at the end of the day come prepared, and he took questions from the media, and there were some tough pointed questions about why he did what he did to the media, but he kind of stayed on talking point, you could tell, and he had some really nice things to say in both the speeches. And even though when he got some of those tough questions, which led to some people in the crowd cheering, he actually got a few cheers himself when he spoke. And so I think at the end of the day, especially his second speech, when he talked a lot about, we take steps now, just because not everything has been done doesn't mean that we're not taking steps, and hopefully a generation from now things change. And I think that got a pretty good ovation from the crowd. So it kind of started off awkward, but it finished on a pretty pleasant note. Him and the chief exchanged gifts, which was really nice.
Did you get the feeling that he was sincere?
I've covered Trudeau enough now and I've seen enough of his news conferences where I want to believe him. He sounds very sincere, but a lot of times, when he sounded sincere in the past, and then, things like this happen. So it's really, it's hard to tell. I think he's sincere, but really only time will tell whether or not he follows through with the action that everybody was telling him that day that he needs to start taking, his government needs to start taking.
Trudeau said at that press conference that as far as he knows, the federal government has handed over all the records that they have to the Truth and Reconciliation Center at the University of Manitoba. That was the big story. That was one of many stories you wrote from his visit. The next day, what happened?
Yeah, the next day, the National Truth and Reconciliation Commission came out with a statement that essentially, and I kind of, when I was writing that story initially, I was thinking that you better be right, otherwise somebody's going to say something. And sure enough, they did. The National Truth and Reconciliation Commission came out and said that that's not true, that there's still a wide variety of different types of documents and archival information that they're still trying to get from the federal government. And they basically, and rightfully so, said, if the Prime Minister wants to say that all the records are with us, please give them to us. So
make it a fact. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be interesting to see how Trudeau responds. If he responds, we don't get to, I know we've had him here like 4 times now in the last 2 years, but we don't get to ask him a lot of follow-up questions. So hopefully somebody soon asks him that follow-up question, and we can kind of follow this and see where it goes.
Magic Mike, you were pretty close to the Prime Minister, hey? Like you were, did you mic him up or anything?
I was the closest. Yeah, I actually designed the set, and I actually chose where he was going to sit on the panel.
No way.
And I've got some pictures from me to you away.
Did you notice anything, have any interaction, or see something that maybe other people didn't, or any interesting story?
I didn't really have any interaction with the Prime Minister, but I did notice his demeanor was sullen.
Yeah. So you didn't turn around and have a laugh or smile or at any time or anything?
Not at all. He was, like you guys said, on point and very, very serious.
Yeah, and it wasn't the right time to hand him one of your River Song guitars, obviously.
I tried.
Yeah.
Does he wear cologne? Could you smell him? Did he smell like the beach?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the Eau de Ocean.
Eau de Tofino.
Eau de Tofino. Okay, back on task. Chris, anything for Michael?
So where do we go from here, do you think, with respect to this story and what Kamloops wants to happen?
Well, I know that Kamloops, to its credit, has been very clear on what they want to see from the federal government do. Chief Casimir mentioned the healing center that they'd like the government to help them build, and disclosing all the records, obviously, given what the National Truth Reconciliation Commission said the other day, that there's still a lot to do there. There's some people who asked me, like, when this story kind of first broke and Kamloops was kind of thrust back into the center of the news cycle again. They're saying, people were telling me, like, oh, well, this is, why is the media making such a big deal about this? And I mean, all I could tell them was that, it's a big deal because the fact of the matter is that when the Prime Minister did what he did, I think it pretty much served as a bit of evidence to that notion that First Nations issues aren't taken seriously by this country. It was just, if you're going to go and vacation in the same province that just invited you to an event to observe Truth and Reconciliation, and then say, well, I did this the day before, so I got it out ahead of time, I think it just shows people that it's that you don't actually care about that issue,
That's awesome insight, Mike. Anything else you want to add before we let you go?
I'd like to say something.
Yeah.
One thing that I noticed that was really amazing was Cookbee Roseanne Casimir. She stood shoulder to shoulder with the leader of our country and just did it very, very well, very graciously, and was an inspiring person to watch deal with that. So I think there's a story there as well.
Well, I saw that the mayor, Ken Christian, said the exact same thing as you. I think it was one of our stories.
Story today. He was mentioning about how she really represented the area well, her people well, and Kamloops well. In talking about that and about expressing why they were disappointed and what they want to see done. It's more that and she did more than you can bitch about anything you want, but she's actually saying, yeah, she's complaining, but she's also saying, but here's the resolution, which is the important back part that we rarely see these days in this frenzied world of everyone complaining on social media and elsewhere. She actually comes together with, here's what we need to do to get past this, which is often lacking.
All right, Mike, can you give us back to you guys in studio by chance?
All right, well, from my basement to Lee's music, back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you, Michael. Great job. Appreciate it. So that was a nod to the last week clique. Now you have seen the latest edition of this already.
I did. I saw it last night, and it's fantastic. It takes us to a new level.
Dave the Hawk Eagles, by the way, lost some weight.
He is. I think we can say this because it's a public thing. He's on this kind of voodoo, super duper voodoo pharmacy weight loss health kick, and he was saying that he was getting a little too heavy, and which forced him to take afternoon naps and labored breathing, going upstairs. I think many of us who've let our health go understand that. So he's on this incredible diet that takes him into next year. No alcohol. You got to watch what you eat. Much fewer calories, walking and all that. Last I saw him, I think he lost 50 pounds. Mm-hmm. 50 pounds, which is amazing. And I think he has a few more to go. And then the key then after the program's over is to keep it off.
Yeah. It looks great. I think those naps were happening before, though. I mean, those naps have been going on for
I think those naps have been going on for a long time. Absolutely.
All right, let's check out the last week clique.
Well, so you're probably wondering what I'm working on this week. Well, one of them is a story about, no, not cats, dogs. Apparently this dog rescued a woman and from a bear, and a few years ago, 2019, and just recently Purina has given her dog an award. So we're going to talk about a dog that won an award for being brave. Well, something else I'm doing this week is I'm reading all three of these books in a trilogy series. Actually, I'm not reading them, I'm scanning them, but I'm getting a chance to talk to the author. And the author is someone you might be familiar with. His name is Chris Kempling, and he writes a faith column on a regular basis, rotating through. He's written a trilogy, and it's a fantasy series called Bloodhammer. And we're going to talk to Chris, see what he has to say, how we got the inspiration for this, and how long it took him, and if he's got any other projects on the go. 10 minutes before I go to work. I got to do this quickly. Hey, this reminds me of another story I'm working on. Where's that shaver? Starting next week, I'm going to be writing some features on Kamloops this week's Christmas Cheer Fund. It's going to start up again, and we're going to feature 4 non-for-profit businesses this year, like we did last year. Chris Rose Therapy Center for Autism, Kamloops Brain Injury Association, and the Kamloops Therapeutic Riding Association, and the Y Women's Emergency Shelter. Yeah, so there'll be more information on our Wednesday paper. You going to tell you how you can donate. If you're a company or you're an individual, you want to get involved. A lot of people have last year. And we'll see what we can do. So look for that in next week's paper. And hopefully I won't be late for work.
Two stories that I wanted to draw your attention to from me this week. The first is the return of live programming up at campus community radio station CFBX over at TRU. They've got about 30 volunteers returning for the first time since March of 2020, meaning you'll once again be hearing live voices over at 92.5 FM. The other is a story that looks at the cases reported to Blue Grotto owner David Pup Johnston. That's following an October 14th punk show. And he says there's been at least 8 cases so far, but Interior Health has yet to weigh in. He's kind of waiting for them to hear what his next steps will be. So that'll be an interesting one to follow as well.
Big story this week is obviously the Prime Minister in town meeting with Kamloops. And it falls on a week where the city of Kamloops and Kamloops are actually also meeting. So I thought I would use this time to describe and to explain how those two governments work hand in hand in our community. So Kamloops Band Council and the City of Kamloops City Council actually meet twice per year. This one's at Moccasin Square Gardens on Wednesday morning. Kudos to whoever came up with that name, by the way. So they sit down and they talk about issues with intersections that intersect and overlap one another. So things that have come up in the past have been construction projects, say the Riverside Park construction project, and potential archaeological finds in that area, which we now know did occur. And the Stuart Wood building downtown, the old school, which remains vacant to this date. And on Wednesday, it looks like they're going to be talking about UNDRIMP implementation as well as economic development. It looks like that's going to be one of the topics on the agenda. So it's just interesting to note that while lots of people were criticizing Justin Trudeau for not coming to Kamloops to meet with to Kamloops, your city councillors actually meet on a regular basis twice per year with Band Council, and that's happening coincidentally on Wednesday.
It's good to see what they're doing. It's good to put a face to the bylines, and I like how they seem to embrace it. And Eagles with his cats and his shaving and his books. I think hopefully he pushes Jessica, Sean, and Michael to up their game. Not that their game needs upping, but maybe they'll be forced to do something crazy, like maybe do something from a yoga studio or something.
I love today's show, really. I mean, Dianna Hartnell is amazing. We kind of thought she might get a bit emotional, and she did, and you can understand why.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
And also, this is a huge day for us. Caitlin Sharp is also fantastic. Brand new sponsor on board. Cold Control Mechanical. Do you have any needs in the refrigeration or
I do actually.
Air conditioning,
my
gas fitting?
I got one of those LG fridges that has an ice maker, and the ice maker broke. And I went online to see how I could fix it, and I know how to fix it, but I can't do it because I'm horrible at that, so maybe I'll call up Cold Control.
Well, just a second. They handle mostly commercial stuff.
Okay.
So they handle mostly commercial heating, air conditioning, and gas fitting. They do BP, Tim Hortons, Carlos O'Brien's, Romeo's, long list, outstanding reputation, my guys, Vinny and Dustin. They dabble in residential work too. He actually put my water heater in.
No, you go to your place, but not Foldsy's.
Exactly. It's done so well. Sometimes I go into my storage room and just gaze at the water heater.
It's because it's so symmetrical.
It's amazing the work these guys do.
It's all smooth. You probably give it a hug because you're single. Very good.
Yeah. Okay, Magic Mike and Bonnie, thanks a lot. Mike, you piped in today. Oh, one more thing about Magic Mike. We foreshadowed this on the show, unfortunately, last week.
We talked about it last week.
We said, you're probably not happy about the criminality and
surrounding
your place. You got robbed again?
Again, batteries, right?
Yeah, it happened again. I went in to start my truck to actually do the one of the events at the Kamloops Indian Band, and the truck wouldn't start. And it was because somebody, usually they're nice and they take the battery and they leave all the connectors and they don't cut the wires. This time they ripped all the wires out, and I think they use them to charge their cell phones and stuff, but...
Your question was, why do they keep stealing batteries?
It's driving me insane. Like, it's thousands of dollars worth of car batteries now that I've lost, and I've welded them in, and even then they can still break the welds, because you can't just totally encapsulate them, right? You have to be able to service at one point, but it's like,
Yeah, I don't even know what to say. It just keeps happening, and it's a terrible situation. I don't know what else to say about it.
I was going to say, what's the solution? There is no solution. I'm convinced of it. This is the way it is, man. There's just, it's really weird. Like, what are you supposed to do?
And on the vein again, sorry to cut you off, there was vandalism at New Leaf.
I think it was...
5 weeks ago there was vandalism where they got one of their windows broken.
Right.
And then last week, somebody drove into their front window.
I think it was an accident.
That was just an accident.
It wasn't they were upset about the apricots.
No. And what about the resolve of New Leaf too? They were open the next day.
Yeah. And they had the board up. They had the glass guy there, the door guy there. I drove by, took some pictures of it, and they were people walked by. Actually, when I went there, people were trying to go shopping, but it said they were closed because of But good. It's good that it wasn't as bad as it sounded overall.
And you can support them. Applefest in Merritt, October 30th.
Boat Street.
They're going to bring out the commercial juicer.
Commercial juicer, that's right.
Okay. Mike and Bonnie, thanks again. Scott Finley and the Grand Ones. That's Chris Folds. I'm Marty Hastings. We'll see you last week.